Back to our channel. In this video, we're going to start about the menstrual cycle. So, coming to the menstrual cycle, the first thing which we need to see is oogenesis, because the menstrual cycle starts with this process. So, oogenesis is where the primary oocyte actually converts into secondary oocyte, but this conversion actually it is blocked at the level of meiosis 1. That is exactly, it is arrested in diplotin stage of prophase 1. Why it is arrested? Because only in the puberty we know that the hypothalamus pituitary axis will get activated. So in the puberty, when this axis will activated, then this primary oocyte will convert into secondary oocyte. But remember that the primary oocyte is already formed in a intrauterine life itself, but the secondary oocyte will be forming only after the ovulation process takes place, that takes place in the puberty. So along with the secondary oocyte, one polar body is also released. Now let us discuss about the structure of ovary. So before puberty, if you see, the structure of ovary will be like, for example, I have drawn here like an ovary, one ovary. In the ovary you can see a primordial follicle, and you can see this is the cortex and this is the medulla. So in cortex, there is like supporting cells, whereas in the medulla you will have different blood vessels, stroma, and also theca cells. So one thing which you need to see here, it is still a primary oocyte because it is stuck in the meiosis one. That is, so it is stuck in the prophase one, right? So at the time of puberty, if you check out this ovary, then you will find only the primordial follicle. What is primordial follicle? A primary oocyte which is lined by granulosa cells like this, and another layer is a theca cells. So the theca cells and granulosa cells are lying around the primary oocyte. This is called as primordial follicle, and this primordial follicle you can see only at the time of puberty. Okay, so next, coming to the cortex. In the cortex you will find this primordial cell and granulosa cell. In the medulla you will find the blood vessels and theca cells. So number of follicles, maximum number of follicles you can see in the 5th month of intrauterine life. You can see here clearly. In the 5th month of intrauterine life, you can see the maximum number of follicles, that is like about 6 to 7 million follicles. But at the time of birth, there are only 1 to 2 million follicles, and at the puberty, there are like 4 to 5 lakh follicles. So what you are observing here, that the number of follicles are decreasing from the 5th month till the puberty time. So by the time the female is in the puberty age, there are only 4 to 5 lakh follicles, and among this also 1000 follicles will undergo atresia. So only one single follicle is selected among all this, and that is called as dominant follicle, also called as Graafian follicle, and that one follicle is only going to ovulate, and that will also undergo fertilization process. So the initial recruitment, all this process of initial recruitment of the follicles is hormone independent. Did you observe any hormones here? Like, there are no hormones, because only in the puberty the HPO axis will get activated, and only then hormones are formed. So before puberty, in a female, from the intrauterine life till the puberty, there is only one follicle, that is called as primordial follicle. Now coming to the role of follicle stimulating hormone. In the name itself you can see follicle stimulating hormone, and this hormone is released only at the time of puberty. In the puberty, HPO axis will get activated. So because of this, there is functional hypothalamus now, and that will release the gonadotropin releasing hormone in a pulsatile fashion. You can see I wrote here, gonadotropin hormone will be released in pulsatile fashion. So this will go and act on anterior pituitary, and now the anterior pituitary will start producing both FSH and LH, and especially we are going to discuss now about FSH. So FSH will stimulate the follicles, and it will prevent the atresia of the follicles. So what it is doing, as we see, as we are seeing here, like from the beginning of the childbirth till the puberty, you can see like almost only 4 to 5 lakh follicles. So further the follicles have the chance to decrease, but the FSH will come and save the follicles from going atresia. So it will stimulate the follicles, and the role of FSH is mainly acting on granulosa cell. As we discussed, outside the primordial follicle you have granulosa cell, and outside the granulosa cell you have the theca cell. So this FSH will go and mainly act on granulosa cell. So what happens? It will act on granulosa cell. It will form two types of hormones. One is estrogen, important hormone. Another one is inhibin B. So inhibin B and estrogen are formed from granulosa cells. Why they are formed? Because of FSH activation. So now this inhibin B is actually giving a negative feedback to the FSH. That is, whenever the inhibin B is produced, it will say to the FSH, stop producing more amount of estrogen or inhibin B. It is a safety factor, because if more estrogen there will be some kind of problem. So to prevent all this, the inhibin B is acting like a negative feedback on FSH. So now let us discuss mainly about estrogen. So estrogen is also having a negative feedback on FSH. So not only inhibin B, even estrogen have negative feedback. So negative feedback is nothing but decreasing the level of FSH. So the FSH level is decreased. So what happens if the FSH level is decreased? All the follicles die. So starting, we are only saying that FSH is coming and activating granulosa cells, so estrogen is produced, and FSH is also protecting many follicles which are undergoing atresia. Till then it is okay. But now FSH is only again releasing estrogen, and from estrogen it is getting negative feedback, and it is decreasing again the follicles by means of atresia and selecting only one dominant follicle, and that dominant follicle is called as Graafian follicle. Now coming to positive feedback on luteinizing hormone. So estrogen is having negative effect on FSH because FSH has produced it, so it will show negative effect on FSH. But luteinizing hormone is not forming estrogen. So on luteinizing hormone, estrogen is having a positive effect. Okay, so that is nothing but it is increasing the luteinizing hormone, and estrogen is leading to decrease in FSH and increase in LH. And estrogen also proliferates the endometrium of the uterus. So that is the reason why the endometrium will get fluffy, and never give. And one more thing we need to remember, that we should never give estrogen to a female with intact uterus. Means we can give tablets of estrogen and progesterone, but never give directly only estrogen, because estrogen is it is leading to hypergrowth or proliferation of endometrium. So if you give estrogen alone, it will lead to endometrial cancer or endometrial hyperplasia. So note that FSH receptors are present on granulosa cell. As FSH receptors are present on granulosa cell, that is the reason why FSH is going and acting on granulosa cell. The granulosa cell tumor of ovary is feminizing tumor. Like for example, if granulosa cell have tumor, and even in the case of tumor also it will start producing estrogen, right? But it is abnormal production of estrogen, and this is called as feminizing tumor, because estrogen is feminizing hormone, right? Now coming to tumor marker for granulosa cell tumor of ovary. So if there is any granulosa cell tumor, then what is the marker which you can see is mainly inhibin B, because when granulosa will activate, both estrogen and inhibin B are formed. So especially we'll see inhibin B as a marker whenever there is granulosa cell tumor. So now let us discuss about role of luteinizing hormone. So now we understood before puberty how the female hormones are working. At the puberty, mainly FSH is acting on granulosa cell. So mainly at the puberty, what you see is estrogen and inhibin B which are coming, and both are having negative effect on the FSH, but estrogen is having positive effect on LH, right? So because of this positive effect on LH, there is increase in LH, and also there is increase in endometrial hyperplasia. So now what LH will do, let us understand now about LH. So coming to LH now. So you can see here positive feedback on granulosa cells. So more LH, right? So LH will lead to mainly LH surge. So LH surge is suddenly rise in luteinizing hormone, because till now you can see till puberty, even puberty has started, but still luteinizing hormone is calm, it is not increased. But whenever the estrogen is increased, immediately luteinizing hormone following it will undergo a rapid surge, and this is initiated by estrogen. So how much amount of estrogen? Estrogen 200 picograms of estrogen should be present for 48 hours. So for 48 hours continuously, if 200 picograms of estrogen is present in the blood of a female, then you can say it is leading to LH surge. So what is this LH surge actually? Because of this LH surge, as we discussed before puberty in a female, there is a primary oocyte which is stuck in meiosis 1. So because of this LH surge, now this meiosis 1 resumes and ovulation takes place. That is, the primary oocyte converts into secondary oocyte when the LH surge takes place. So this is how estrogen is indirectly leading to ovulation. So after LH surge, this follicle will remain back, and that is called as corpus luteum. So the remaining follicle is called as corpus luteum. Now coming to LH, another function of LH is it will act on theca cells. So FSH will act on granulosa cell and LH will act on theca cell. You know, theca cell is the outer layer of the follicle. So now this theca cell will produce androgens. So we are here. That theca cell will produce now androgen. You may think androgen is male thing, why it is in female? Let us see. So because of this androgen, there is increase in granulosa cells and in adipose tissue. There is conversion of androgens into estrogen by means of aromatase enzyme. So what is going on? Let me say this. Luteinizing hormone will act on theca cell. It will produce androgens. Okay. Next, in granulosa cells also luteinizing hormone will lead to conversion of androgen into estrogen. So androgen is produced from theca cell and this androgen is converted into estrogen in granulosa cell. So for example, I drawn this diagram. You can see here TC means theca cell, GC means granulosa cell. Theca cell will produce the androgen and this androgen is converted into estrogen in the granulosa cell by means of aromatase enzyme. Before, if you remember, I am saying from the granulosa estrogen is coming. How it is coming? It is coming with the help of luteinizing hormone which is acting on theca cell. So theca cell is helping to form estrogen from by means of granulosa cell. So the main factory for androgen is theca cell. And this androgen coming into the granulosa cell, it will by means of aromatase enzyme, it will convert the androgen into estrogen. Okay, so this is the story. And luteinizing hormone will also act on the granulosa cell. So not only on the theca cell, luteinizing hormone will also act on the granulosa cell like FSH. So what is two cell to gonadotropin theory? If you understand this theory, you can clearly understand this LH story. So granulosa cell, two cell to gonadal theory is in the granulosa cell. If you see, first let us discuss about theca cell. Okay, in the theca cell, as we said, there is an FSH receptor. Oh, sorry. This is theca cell. In the theca cell, there is luteinizing hormone receptors because luteinizing hormone will act on theca cell, right? So this luteinizing hormone will convert the cholesterol into androstenedione and testosterone in the presence of CAMP and CYP17. So this androsterone which goes into the granulosa cell by means of aromatase, and this will now mainly convert into estrogen by means of aromatase, and here the androstenedione will be converted into E1 and testosterone will be converted into E2. So this is how estriol, estradiol are formed in a female. Okay. Now let us discuss about the role of luteinizing hormone on the granulosa cell. So we have discussed till now like how the luteinizing hormone will act on theca cell, and we also discussed like how the FSH will act on granulosa cell. Okay, so now let us see how the luteinizing hormone is going to act on granulosa cell like the FSH acts on granulosa cell, right? So luteinizing hormone acts on the granulosa cell and that will lead to luteinization of cells. That is, a small amount of progesterone is released even before ovulation at the time of LSH. You know, at the time of LSH, even some amount of progesterone is also released from the granulosa cell. So granulosa cell have a capacity to produce estrogen, inhibin B, and also has a capacity to produce progesterone. But remember, when FSH acts on granulosa cell, it will produce mainly estrogen and inhibin B. But when LH acts on granulosa cell, it will lead to production of progesterone, that is small amount of progesterone. Okay, and of course we know LH will act on theca cell to form the androgen, and that androgen will be converted again into estrogen in the granulosa cell. So the small amount of progesterone has positive effect. Small amount of progesterone has positive effect on luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. So that is leading to increase in luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. So progesterone, which is in turn leading to increase in both luteinizing hormone and follicle stimulating hormone. So note that in females, the luteinizing hormone receptors are present on theca cell and also on granulosa cell. That is very important. And progesterone appears earliest in the menstrual cycle at the LH surge. In the LH surge also, progesterone will appear first. Okay, and that is 32 to 36 hours before ovulation. 32 to 36 hours before ovulation you will see the progesterone. Okay, in the LH surge. So there is LH and FSH surge before ovulation. So this is very important. Everyone thinks there is only LH surge before ovulation, but there is also FSH surge. You can see there is LH and FSH surge before ovulation. That is before, you can say, 32 to 36 hours before ovulation. So let us discuss the other one in the second part.